All right. Is this thing on? Seems like it's on. Hello, everyone. In theory, we should be live and things should be working. I'm seeing a couple viewers. That's promising. Quick check as always, is my mic versus music volume all good? Can you hear me okay with the background music? Just before we get rolling. My Twitch app is doing the weirdest things. Don't hear the background music. Interesting. It should be on, but I'm scared to make it much louder. I bumped it just a tiny bit, and we'll see how that goes. Okay, good. Very good. Thank you. I've also bumped my display. Okay, it's gonna be one of those days. I'll put these earphones in so that I can hear the background music a bit. And then I think we can get rolling. This is going to be an interesting one. I've messed around with a bunch of things, configuration-wise, with the setup and everything. But hopefully it all works decently, and we'll have a nice time coding some compose today. Hope everyone had nice holidays. Happy New Year. You're probably tired of hearing that at this point. Yeah, I think let's take a look at where we are and what we're gonna do today. So I'll just switch to this scene where we have a bunch of things already open, and we'll pick up pretty much where we left off last time. So I have the KotlinConf project open here, which actually we should start here. This is also available on GitHub. So this is an open source repo. Anyone can look at it. The master branch currently includes the implementation from last year, and then it's the 2025 branch, KotlinConf 2025 branch, where we are in the work in progress state, where we are building the new design and the new version of the app for this year. We have a wonderful design for that, where you can see that we have these huge pieces of screen designs that we can look at. And we also have some of these smaller individual components that we've actually already built last year, mostly on stream, maybe like 50% on stream. These like tags and headers and some Cody icons and feedback form, and then a bunch of different small components. So we have already built all of these and we have them in code. And what we'll start doing this year is building the actual screens that use those components. Welcome everyone who are still joining. Hello. Before we get to the code, which as you can see I already have open here, and we actually have this little gallery running as well, which shows all the components that are already built and are working. Before we do that, just a couple more announcements and things like that. So this is, of course, all about KotlinConf. The conference is happening once again in May, once again in Copenhagen. If you don't have a ticket yet, you might want to grab one while we still have tickets available. It's going to be bigger than ever. There's going to be a lot of tracks, a lot of speakers. At this point, I don't have to mention the CFP because we have actually closed the call for papers now, and we're in the process of selecting the speakers. We had a lot of submissions. We're sifting through them and making selections in the next couple of weeks and putting together a schedule. But it's already going to be excellent. We also have workshops. Other than just attending the conference, you can also attend workshops at KotlinConf if you're interested. These are on the 0th day of the conference, or like the first day of the conference before the conference days, on the 21st. We have a lot of JetBrains and other certified Kotlin trainers who are going to be doing these workshops. So we have a coroutines workshop, we have a deep dive into KMP workshop, we have a KTOR workshop, we have a Compose multi-platform UI workshop, and so on and so on. So you might also want to take a look at that. And finally, the last thing I wanted to call out is just the Kotlin YouTube channel. Obviously, all of you are already subscribed to the Kotlin YouTube channel, but in case you're not, this is a reminder to subscribe. As you can see, we've put out a couple like language feature and what's new in Kotlin type of videos last year, and we're going to continue doing those videos this year as well. You can also catch episodes of Talking Kotlin there. And if you just really need like long form Kotlin content, if you haven't watched all of the Advent of Code streams from last year with various wonderful guests joining Seb on each day to solve puzzles in Kotlin, you can also go back and go through the backlog of 12 streams that we've produced last year. Great for listening to something while cooking and still learning about Kotlin and that sort of thing. Okay, let's see what we have in the code. So we have the project here. We have a UI components module. And in here, in the common code, we've been building, first of all, the theme, very important, and then the components based on that. So as you can see, we really have a very large number of components that already exist here and that we're going to be able to make use of. And then to actually be able to preview these components, we had this gallery app composable, which just creates a preview for each of them. And the big thing that we were using here was compose hot reload, which is one of the primary things that I started to do these streams for, to play around with that. So we can actually take a look at that. That's also available on GitHub. You can have a look. You can grab the latest version of it. There's a sample included in the repo. You can try that if you want to. And essentially what this allows us to do is use a Compose desktop application running on the JVM. And as we make code changes to the composable functions and to the code base, we can save that and have it automatically rebuild and refresh the live running JVM application without having to close it, compile it, and rerun it in various steps. And we can even keep some of the state of the application as that hot reload happens. So we have that set up here. And I mean, even in this gallery, if I just scroll up to the top where we have this action preview, if I do something like comment out the action preview, you can see that the little loading bar appears and it rebuilds the project, and that first preview was removed. Or if I go into the button previews and I add 2 more of the primary buttons, you can see that the little reload UI appears, and now we have a bunch of those primary buttons. Now, something I must mention here is the speed of the hot reload. It can actually be faster. I'm not using it under ideal conditions because the changes I'm making are in this UI components module in this case, and what we're running is this gallery. So we're actually doing this cross module, but it is working even in this scenario, and it is reloading correctly. It's just not as quick as if I was making code changes in the same module that's running the application. So the more modules involved, the slower it gets. Hopefully we can improve that in the long term. Okay, so we have this gallery, but this really was just here to help us while developing the different components, and where we want to go is this shared module. So this is what contains the actual application that we can run, at least for JVM and WASM, and then it also contains some things that the Android app module consumes and the iOS app module consumes. But we're going to focus on JVM because we're doing the hot reload thing, so that app is actually entirely within this shared module. And if we go to our pending changes, you can see that I've added hot reload to this module as well. So what that means is basically adding a Gradle plugin, the hot reload Gradle plugin, which was already in our version catalog, and then flipping this optimized non-skipping groups flag on the Compose compiler because because hot reload just works a bit better that way. It should actually work either way, whether we have that flag or not, but supposedly we'll have a better time if we have that enabled. I've also bumped the hot reload version to the latest one that's available, so that's 32 and 32.1. And we are using a custom build of the Compose compiler and Kotlin compiler because there are some patches in there that make hot reload work better. And outside of that, I think that's pretty much it. The only other thing I had to do was add a development entry point somewhere in our code, which just wraps the composable content that we want to hot reload. And so if we run this shared module instead of the gallery, then we should now be running the real app, which, I mean, it has been replaced with just a placeholder, but you know, this is where the app will actually live in the shared module. And I created a screens package here, and that's where we can start building some of our screens. Let's take a look at the design again, and we'll pretty much start with the simplest possible screens, and then we'll see how far we can get during this stream. So first things first, we have a couple of start screens here, which are a splash screen that I think we actually already have implemented, but I'm too lazy to run the mobile apps right now. And then we have a privacy policy screen. We have a detailed version of that we can open. And then we have a notification customization screen with a bunch of different toggles about what you want to be notified for and what you don't need in your life. Then we have some examples of the main navigation. I think that can come later. We'll have the schedule screen, which is very data heavy, so we'll probably put off implementing that for a bit here. I actually have to learn more about how data flows into the application and what the API looks like, because I have not looked at that yet. Then we have search, which is essentially on top of the schedule. Feedback is also dependent on the schedule. We have these talk screens, which show the details of individual talks. These we could actually already build, so that's a good candidate. And then we have some of the like about and settings and those sorts of screens. So this info screen, for example, looks very good. This is something that definitely uses the pre-built components that we already have, so we just need to kind of throw those together. Then we have about screens. A lot of these are just like a very long legal documents, so not super exciting for us for the stream. And then we'll have some mobile app specific screens. So again, there's an about screen, there's a settings screen here, so maybe we can have a look at some of those. Someone in the chat was asking if I record the streams. I actually do record them now. Because I've been asked about it so many times, and apparently people want to watch these after the fact, which I didn't really expect, but apparently that's a thing. And you can actually find those on my YouTube channel. So it's just youtube.com/my username. That's my username everywhere. And we have the recordings of the previous streams there, and I'll also add the recording for this stream once we're done with it. Already we're like 10 hours into these hot reload compose streams, so to be continued. Right. Because time zones, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Wouldn't want to watch this overnight necessarily. Okay, so that's a rough overview of the screens. We also have like a partner screen, which is, I mean, that's just, like one grid, not very exciting to build. Let's start at the beginning. Let's start at the start screens, right? Let's see if we can build these like privacy policy and related screens. I'll try to arrange this so that we can see both the design and the code and the actual app at the same time. And we'll see how well that actually works out. Okay, so I do want to create some kind of composable for this. So let's call this, was it just like start screen? I guess it's just the start screen. again, the actual organization of these files and things like that doesn't really matter. I'll likely refactor all of this before we actually, commit them and merge them. But let's try to do something reasonable. So we want to have a start screen function, which is going to be a composable. Let's call it the start screen. Of course, we don't have material imports here, which I tried to use here accidentally. So you can see that text is not available, and that's on purpose, which I should explain. So in the shared module, where we are building our application based on components that are already prepared in the UI components module, we don't want to accidentally use any material theming, so we don't depend on material at all. All that we depend on is this UI components module and the APIs and components that it provides. So anything that needs a material dependency for some implementation detail is self-contained within the UI components. And then we don't have the material dependency leaking to other places in our application. We do have some kind of variant of text. So we have something called styled text coming from those components. As you can see, that's an import from our own package. So that's what I can do to just put up a basic start screen. And to actually show that, I think I'll just call it within the app function. And as hot reload happens, you can now see that it says start screen. So we have some kind of entry point. Okay, what does this start screen contain? So obviously it has Kodi that's just chilling with that shield icon. Now, I don't know if we've already imported that specific Kodi into the app yet. Oh no, I don't have the Android plugin enabled. Let's fix that real quick, because we should have an XML preview. What a wonderful time to update plugins. Speaking of plugins, you can already see the plugin that's the first that I install anytime I set up IntelliJ. Yes, the app is open source, so we're working on the KotlinConf app. You can find it on GitHub. It's JetBrains/KotlinConf app. I can actually send in the link to the specific branch as well. So this KotlinConf 2025 branch is the new version of the app for this year. And then if you go back to the master branch, that would be the version of the app as of the 2024 conference. Are you using desktop for hot reload? Is it just your preference, or that's what it supports? Or does it support Android and iOS too? Yeah, so hot reload specifically, I'm gonna get stuck in this dialogue, aren't I? Hot reload specifically works with desktop JVM apps for the time being. That's where our focus is. There are very special JVM runtime things that make it possible for us to edit classes and reload them while the application is running. We will look at other possibilities for other platforms at some point, but the focus of hot reload for now is certainly the desktop target. I am just never gonna get out of this. I think I might have like a problem with the internal repo, and I'm not on a VPN and stuff like that. So I might just need to quit IntelliJ entirely here. I'll just do that. That's all right. We're gonna go. This was the stable version, I believe. We're gonna relaunch that. I still do want the Android plugin though, and I wonder if I can get it. Oh, I had it disabled for some reason. That's interesting. We're gonna hopefully quickly just update that and then get rolling. Again, I'm only doing this to get like an XML preview. To But then again, oh, of course, it requires a restart. But what if I don't do that? What if we just go to resources and look at these codies? No, that's okay. Still unhappy with me. Let's restart it one more time. So obviously we could have at this point just added the drawable to the app and actually looked at it, but I wanted to check beforehand. Okay, we have the Android plugin. And did it not load yet? This seems like an interesting rabbit hole to debug this. But it's really besides the point. So let's get back to the design, and yeah, we'll just guess that one of these is surely the codie that we need. Okay, so we're gonna have, all right, let's run the app again so that we see this happening in real time. I'll just run it before I start writing the code. So there's our start screen. Excellent. We'll need a column of stuff. That part is quite clear. Then we'll have a string that says privacy policy on it, and then we'll have this big string here, which goes on about the policy for a while. I mean, we can extract this to string resource here in a moment, but for now, I just want to get the UI working. I'm gonna make it a multi-line string, add that new line, and then trim indents on it. And that should be fine. And then this thing here is actually a component. So if we take a look, this is actually an action component, and it's a large normal action. So we should have that implemented already, and it needs to say, read the privacy policy on it. And then the icon is going to be resources, drawables, and it's a right arrow of some size. Apparently it's 24, so let's try that. Right 24. And size, that was large. We just looked at that. So action size dot large. Enabled, I think this is always enabled, and then we'll need an on click that we eventually need to handle. Okay, and if I save that, we can see that things are reloading. It really doesn't look like anything for now, but you know, we're getting there. If I fix this text, I think the indentation will get fixed. So that's nice. We should. Yeah, I was gonna go for the spacing here. So there's a 24 pixel gap between each of these elements. We can add that on the column level. So this is the vertical arrangement spaced by 24 dps. And if I save that, yeah, the spacing appears. That looks good. We also have horizontal padding here, which is 12 pixels. Actually, I might need to zoom this in. Looking at the stream, this might be tiny here. Of course, we're gonna run out of space, but I want you to see something at least from the parameters I'm grabbing. So if we take a look at this frame, we can see that there's 12 dp or 12 pixel. What is it? Horizontal padding. So we're gonna do modifier, padding, and only horizontally 12 dps. And if we save that, it hot reloads, and we can see that everything jumps a bit towards the middle, just like we'd want it to. Let's fix the size of the title. This is supposed to be the header 1 style. So that's going to be style, KotlinConf theme, typography, header 1. If I save that, we now have the big header. All of this looks pretty good. Of course, we're using this in dark theme, so maybe I should scroll down and then we should be looking at the dark version. This text here is colored long text, and otherwise it's a text 1. I think text 1 is the default style, which is good, but the color we actually have to change. So the color is going to be KotlinConf theme color, and we do have a long text color. So if we save that, it turned gray, just like we'd expect it to. Very good. Let's put this Cody up here, because that's obviously one of the big parts of this screen. So if we just search for like Cody privacy, which is apparently what this icon is, we can only find the generated accessor. So I guess this just needs to be a regular image, which is hopefully available here. And then, I mean, I'll just look at one of the other examples of image loading. For example, we have all of the Cody icons loaded somewhere. And we can see there that if it's a vector, then we can do vector resource. So this image is going to be, I think, image vector. And then we use the vector resource function, and then it's going to be the, well, not the privacy bird. Okay, maybe I'm looking at the wrong resources here. So are my resources coming from the same module? Yes, apparently. So I'm wondering if I can import the other resources. So this is the shared resources. That makes sense. Question is, if I depend on the UI components module, which also has resources, can I grab the resources from in there? So within UI components, whenever we reference like a drawable, that comes from the UI components drawable, and that's internal. Okay, so by default, compose resources are contained within the package. So we can do two things. Either we can try to figure out how to make this class public, which I assume is possible, or we can just move the resources to the app module. Let's quickly check the compose resources docs and see how that works. So maybe in configuration, we can just make this public, right? Access and usage. Oh, there we go. So it's configurable by public REST class. That seems fine. I'm really not sure which one is the nicer design choice, but we can just go with this. So we can basically make this true, and then if we do a Gradle sync, hopefully that's enough to trigger a rebuild of everything. Of course, now we have a broken build. You can see that compose hot reload is showing very nicely that we are in the middle of typing in something, and it couldn't reload at the moment, because this is obviously not valid code here yet. But that's fine. Once we have the Gradle sync and everything, it should recover. So do we now see? Yes, we now see both resources. Of course, I really only want to import one of them so that this doesn't have the like fully qualified name. So let's add an import for this. And now we should have a privacy Cody. just like that. And then I assume we need a content description. This doesn't really need like screen reader support, so we can just make that null. And this still doesn't compile because we are using the wrong arrow. So let's just import the correct one. And now, yay, look at that. Our project actually builds and hot reloads as we expected it to. The next thing we need to do is make sure this Kodi isn't huge, right? So we need it to be 160 dps. Let's just put a modifier on that. That's going to be like modifier size 160 dps. And if we save that, hopefully Kodi sizes itself correctly. We should also center it. But we don't really want to center everything within this column. So let's just make Kodi fill the maximum width. And that seems fine. That's pretty much what we're going for. There's also, I think there's also a top padding here, but we won't really see this until we have like the full navigation and context of the app. So I'm not sure if we need to add that or not. So that's the frame, that's Kodi. And most of this is the status bar, which we're going to have an inset for anyway. I think we'll add just a little bit of padding to the top. So probably, you know, like this one we're going to eyeball, just do like 24 dps or something, just to make sure that whatever the size, there's some padding above Kodi, like that. Okay. Are we accepting contributions to this repo? Maybe, but the design itself is not public, so it would be hard to, you know, like build new components or something like that. But if you do some kind of code cleanup or something like that, you know, contributions like that, I think we can accept. If you want to do anything significant, it would be great if you checked with us first, so that we can confirm that it's something that we're likely to accept a contribution on. But yeah, I mean, it's open source. Okay, that's our Kodi. We should align all of this to the top. For some reason, all of this is centered, and I guess that's coming from here. So we just have everything in a box at the app level. I mean, realistically, we want this screen to fill the max size. So if we just do that, we should fix the alignment problem. And then we want to put these two buttons on the bottom. So that's going to be a row of buttons, right? It's two buttons that are side by side. And we have, you know, a button for that. So there's going to be a reject button and an accept button. And these will need on-click functions. And yep, they pop up immediately with hot reload. We can also take a look at some of the design specs down here. So, oh, there's a lot of padding on different sides here. So we have horizontal padding, which is 12 dps again. I think we'll just, oh, we already have that here, so we don't need to edit again. There's a 16 dp gap, so we can do that. Let's use a proper arrangement for it, although it could also be a spacer. So it's going to be an arrangement horizontal, arrangement spaced by, 16 dps. So that should separate the two buttons. We also want this button to take up all the space, so we can give it a weight of 1. And we should also push this to the bottom of the screen, so we can maybe put in just a regular old spacer here with a weight of 1. And now we really need the bottom padding, so I think the 24 dps here is to account for like the bottom navigation, but again, we'll probably have insets. So I'll make this just 16 for the time being, and we can revisit it once the screen is embedded in the app. So horizontal 12, and then we can do 16 of vertical, and then maybe we don't need the top padding on Kodi at all. Yeah, that looks quite okay. Is the row from the components UI module? So the row isn't. Row here is just compose row, so that's you know, compose foundation layout row. We are using the foundation library within the implementation of the app. What we're not using is the material layer. So compose has these different layers on purpose, where foundation only contains unstyled components like layouts and things like basic text. And other like low-level unthemed building blocks. And then there is the material library built on top of it, which reuses these components but adds all of the material theme things and the material design styling to it. What we're doing with this app is we're using our own design system based on, you know, what we have here in the design. And we have implemented that design system in the UI components module. We still have foundation because that contains core composable components, but then we get rid of material and put our own design system in its place. So we have foundation available for building the app, and we have our own components available at the same time. Basically, we just have our own design instead of material. And we have a lot of, you know, we've just used things like KotlinConf theme here. That's also implemented very much the same way as material is. So there's an object that we can go through for the accessor. We have the composable wrapper, which if we take a look at any of these entry points, you know, we have KotlinConf theme here at the top level of the app, which just wraps everything. And that provides like composition local based theming that flows through the entire application. Okay, button colors. So this button needs this primary style, which hopefully is something that we've implemented for our buttons. So I'm just gonna add some more parameters here and then put these on separate lines. And then, oh, we have a flag for this. So we can just say primary true. And, oh, I've just realized this is behind me on the screen, sorry. So I've added primary true, and flipping this basically, you know, changes the design of that accept button, just like that. Excellent. Do we need anything else on the screen? I think this is pretty much perfect. It would be nice to put all of these things into string resources because we are using string resources now. And of course we want to let users of this screen actually handle all of the click events. So let's do a couple of parameters here. So we'll have like an onRead policy callback, which is a function that returns unit, and an onReject policy and an onAccept policy. That seems fine. And then whenever the read is clicked, we're gonna call onRead. Whenever reject is clicked, we're gonna call onReject. Again, just do some formatting here. And whenever this is clicked, we're gonna call onAccept. Very good. And of course, now we need to do something for this on the call side, just so that our code compiles. And we can check that all of these are indeed clickable. I mean, they don't do anything at the moment, but we can click them for what it's worth. Okay. Oh, right, text resources, sorry. So it would be nice to extract all of these into resources. And the interesting part is that we haven't removed all of the existing implementation of the old app yet. So if we go to like strings XML, we have all of the old strings. I think we're just going to remove all of those. But for now, so that I don't get entirely lost, I'm going to create a strings new here. And I'll just take a look at the format from the common module for a moment, and I'll just copy like one string so that we have the correct format for this file. So what do I want to extract? I need like a privacy policy header. This will just say privacy policy. So there's going to be a title, there's going to be a description, there's going to be the read action, there's going to be a reject and an accept, maybe something like that. So reject, this is actually longer, so I'm going to copy that. That would be this string, and then we have this long multi-line string that we need to put in here. I actually don't know how multi-line strings work and string resources, but I guess we'll find out. We might need to remove the space from here and stuff like that. Okay. Now this doesn't build because of course I removed the text here. So we're gonna go to string resources. We're gonna go to strings, and we might need a compilation here before those new strings are available. Let me see. So now we're in the green. What if I want to main header action bookmark? So I think all of the strings that we have available here are the old ones. Oh no, all of these, okay, so these are all from the UI components module, right? So again, we've run into this problem where both modules have generated resources, and I was browsing the ones in the UI components module. So yeah, we need to think about a lot of like resource organization here, whether these should come from the other module or be part of the app. I think this is clearly part of the app. Like it's not part of the design system. So I guess what we need to do is we just need to import both resources. What we can do to make this nicer is have like a named import. So we can, for example, take the app resources and use an import alias to rename it. So then we can hopefully do like app resources, strings, and then the privacy policy title. Let's save and see if that works. Ooh, okay, interesting. Resource has more than one file. So I think what's happening is the old strings that I've just ignored also have the exact same key in them. Policy title. Yeah, there it is. Okay. What if we just remove all of the old resources? Does any code still rely on that? Let's retry the composition. That's not very happy. Okay, this kind of compilation error might be something that we can't recover from yet. Oh no, we actually do use these strings. Okay, so the problem was that we couldn't compile anymore. So we had strings that said day 1, 2, and 3, and they were in like enums. Okay, I'm just gonna make this compile, right? I'm just gonna remove this, save it. Do these need to be? Oh, these need to be string resources for some reason. The from function returns a string resource. Where are these used? No usages. Wonderful. Okay, I'm gonna delete this. I'm gonna delete this. Again, I'm just gonna make the code compile for now. Let's see if that works. Again, all of these things that I've edited into are just like leftover code from the old app. Okay, so now our app works, and we can get back to our screen. So privacy policy title, we've managed to add that as a resource. Let's see this long string. So string resource, app resources, strings, privacy policy description, save that. Yep, we do need to indeed remove spaces from it. So we need to like remove, I wonder if it's all the indentation or just 4 spaces. Oh, interesting. This doesn't seem to reload. Oh, curious. Okay. Changing string resource doesn't propagate. That's very interesting. What if we do like a clean composition? That doesn't help either. What if I guess that part of the code is not being recompiled to like static accessors. What if I remove this text? That gets removed. What if I add it back in? It doesn't get updated. So I think there's some kind of caching here that hot reload can't deal with. Let us rerun the application. Yeah, now the string has updated. So it looks like if we have things in string resources, we can't quite hot reload that yet. That's good to know. And of course, I'll have that reported and we'll see if we can fix it. Okay, string, this is the read action, and then we need the reject and the accept. String resource, strings, accept. I'm sorry, again, app resources, accept, and then it's the other way around. So that's the reject button and that's the accept button, and as it reloads, we now have all of those strings coming from resources. Wonderful. So I think that's our first screen basically. And we need a variant of this, which is like the details of the privacy policy. I have no idea what to call these screens yet. Or how to implement navigation between them necessarily, because we'll also have like an app level navigation thing, which we already have on a PR, but I didn't want to complicate things here. So I'll just call this the privacy policy screen. Let's rename it to that. We can make sure that we rename the usages as well. And I think this really looks like it's the same screen, right? Like this is not navigation. This is just a state change within the screen. So let's make that a state change. So let's have like a details visible or something like that. Mutable state of false by default. Let's add the imports that we need for this. And then if the details are visible, we want to swap out everything above the buttons, essentially. Okay. So all of this we want to swap out. I'm going to put this into a column for now. And we'll just do an if. So we'll say if the details are visible, then do something else. Otherwise, we stick to the column that we already had. That does not work. That's not very happy. Right, so the weight modifier is in the wrong place now. I'll just put that here. And we also lost the arrangement. That should also be on the inner column. I said on the inner column. That's a bit better. Okay. Will you also live code the navigation and other parts? So navigation is already in progress. Once we have it merged, we'll of course start using that as well. But it's basically on a PR here. As you can see, Victor has set up a bunch of navigation things for us, but it's still under review and we need to fix some things in there. But basically it's the Compose navigation library. So we have a nav host here. We have the destinations. All of them have typed accessors. We have, data classes that represent the different locations and stuff like that. So this is already on a PR. Once it's merged, we'll start using it. Okay, so what if the details are visible? Then we want to show this header, which I'm very excited for because that was a fun component to build. So actually, this frame here, I guess there's no spacing in there. Okay, so that header is going to be a main header title bar, I think. I think that's the API we need here. And it will say privacy policy on it, clearly. For which I think we can just use the same resource, right? So that just says privacy policy. And if we let this hot reload and we change this to true, then now we have a header. Yeah, that works. We also need a back button on this. So we need to be able to navigate back, which essentially will flip this Boolean. Oh, actually, the read button is what will flip this to true, right? So it's going to be like details visible true if someone clicks the read button. And then let's see how we can do a back button here. That's going to be a start content. And the great thing about these components we've built is that we actually have the previews for them. So if we go to the previews, we have a bunch of examples of how to use them. For example, here's a very specific example of how to put a back button up there. So if we just copy that, we can hopefully super easily put up a back button. Yeah, that looks good. Probably doesn't need the padding in this case. So we need to make sure that there's no surrounding padding around this. Basically, this padding that we added earlier needs to move. Probably down here on the inner column. And we can also, yeah, now we lost that padding. Okay, that's not great. I'll probably add this to the row down here. Make sure that those buttons have some space around them. Oh, I'm covering this up again. Sorry. Let me lift this above the camera thing. Okay. So the header looks fine. That looks good. We need like a divider on the bottom of it. Which wasn't part of the header component, but I think the reason why that is it's kind of part of it. I must have just not noticed that bottom border is there. I think we'll maybe ignore that for now, and we'll need to fix that in one place anyway later on. But that's a good to do. I mean, we can go to the title bar. This is kind of a complex component because it can have multiple different states. There's a variant of it which transforms into a search bar, so where to add that border is not necessarily obvious. Yeah. Probably be on the container, which can host either the search bar or the other thing. That's gonna be interesting. So to do add bottom border, and then we'll revisit that. What we do know though is whenever the back button is clicked, we want to navigate back, which is essentially just details visible to false, and we can remove this parameter. And if we save that, then we should now have this wonderful working navigation where we can go to the details of the policy and navigate back. That's excellent. Now the policy itself, again, is going to be some huge piece of text. I think it's probably, yeah, it's like here in the design. I think this is just going to be a large piece of markdown or something that we embed here. So I don't really need to put anything here. Maybe we just put like an obvious placeholder up there so that we can make sure that we see what's happening. So under this title bar, we can put styled text, which just says, I don't know, privacy policy text goes here. And we can see that that appears. That's fine. We'll fill that in later. And the important point is that the buttons are still visible on the bottom, even if we navigate here. These again have a divider, but that divider apparently only appears if we open this second screen. Is that implemented as a top border in the design? Yes, it is. Markdown divider. I think we have some kind of divider in the UI components, but it might not be public divider. Yeah, it's internal. I think we just make this public. Easy as that. So we'll make that public, and then we'll go back to our code. And now we have a divider available. It needs to be 1 dp, thickness 1 dp, and the color is stroke color pale. So that's again from our design, KotlinConf theme, colors, and pale. And if I save that, well, we have a divider on the top now. But if we, push that to the bottom, maybe put a spacer in here below the text. What is this arrangement? We have a column at the top level. It fills the entire screen. How is this not pushed to the bottom? Oh, there's another weight modifier here. That's the issue. Well, that's a bit annoying. We can just put that in here. I guess that works. Yeah. Yeah, so now if we go to the detailed screen, then that bottom divider appears. We can probably make that nicer. Oh, actually, this divider also solves our problem for the title bar. So whenever we need a line below that, we can just put that up there like this. And I think that looks good. So if I resize this, that seems fine. If I navigate back, yeah, that's basically good. Now an interesting part is that I'm actually modifying the contents of this one column for the time being. So in one of the cases, I put a whole column of things in there. In the other case, I'm actually just spitting out a bunch of things that are going to be directly put inside of the column. We could wrap this into a column as well, but I don't necessarily want to. The interesting part is that it would be nice to swap these out with like animated visibility or animated content, so that it fades a bit. So we can do that by doing this. We can create an animated content, and then depending on the state in there, so depending on details viz, we can show one or the other, and that does not work. I wonder what went wrong there. Redefine classes. Okay. I think we've managed to do something that changes too much. Maybe it changes a lambda type too much and hot reload can't handle it. So we'll have to close that and retry. I'm gonna take a quick note of that happening, and here's our screen. Well, this certainly did not work. That doesn't look great, does it? Okay, so first of all, details have to be not visible by default. So we're gonna make that false. But then this navigation really doesn't work. I mean, it's very pleasing. It actually reacts very nicely. Our layout just breaks. So once again, that's because we're trying to just put these items into the column, but now it's inside the animated content, so that's not really great to do. So let's try a more reasonable approach for this, which would be to just have a column at this level as well. So just wrap everything here into a column, and that's almost a good idea, except we don't want it to take up quite the entire space available height-wise, because we still need this row on the bottom. Okay. Okay. So, oh, basically it's the animated content that we want to customize, right? So I want to give that a modifier, and maybe I can give that a weight of 1. Yeah, that looks good. So now the top of the screen is the animated content, and then the buttons are independent below it. That looks very good. I mean, I don't like the animations, but that's the easy part. So we can do transition spec, and then this needs to be some kind of complicated lambda. We can copy the default, and we can basically just remove the scaling animations from it. So we can make it just a fade in and a fade out. And if I save that, yeah, now we just fade between the two screens like that. Maybe we can make this faster. Yeah, I'm pretty okay with that. We could make it nicer, of course, but I think that's a start. We have this back string that I think we should probably move into resources. So I'll just create a back string for that, and we'll take one of the existing string resource things, and we're gonna use that instead of back. So it's a bit hard to fit everything on the screen here, but that's going to be the back string. And again, that's just for the accessibility of this back button here. Okay. Let's keep moving. Let's take a look at the next screen, which is actually a different screen. So I'll create a separate composable for that. It's going to be a composable function, and we'll call it notifications. For now, notification screen doesn't seem perfect overall, but it's going to be fine for a start. And as you can see, it has quite a similar layout to the privacy screen. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to take that, we're going to copy paste it. We'll remove one of the buttons that we don't need, and we'll make sure that we actually call this inside the app. So instead of the privacy policy that we were testing so far, we'll call the notification screen function, which looks very similar for the time being. It doesn't need 2 states though, so we can immediately remove half of the code from this function. Something like this. We can also remove that action. I don't think that's in there. Instead of privacy policy title, this can be, I guess, notifications title. And it also has a description, and then we have a bunch of switches. So this is going to be notification description, and let's start adding those strings. So notifications title, I think it just says notifications on it, right? Yep. And then we have this description that we'll copy from the design. So description is going to be that. And if we save that, it doesn't compile at the moment, but if we fix the imports here, do I have a typo here? Is the accessor not generated yet? I think that might be it. Are there other errors in the file? No, it's just this one. Oh, there's a brace problem. Why is this not being generated? We have the title, we just don't have the description. Let's save this and save it again. Oh, now it's... No, still doesn't work. Am I using the... It's in the app resources. This is imported. Is this just a typo somehow? Oh, I had notification description. Okay. So it was a typo. Good. That's why we don't. That's why we use autocompletion. Did I close the app now? Yes, I did. So I'll just rerun it. Okay, we're getting there. So that's notifications. We definitely need a weight modifier here, or like a spacer. Oh, I didn't remove the correct braces probably. There we go. Okay. So the button on the bottom is supposed to say let's get started. So let's add that as a string resource as well. So this should be notifications. And of course now this needs to build at least halfway. Yeah, I think it's unclear when like hot reload is supposed to rebuild the like synthetic accessors for string resources. That's not entirely ideal at the moment. Okay, let's get started. We have the wrong Cody here. It's so difficult to get everything on the screen at the same time. So we want to have that Cody with the little notification badge, very cute. So that's Cody notifications, I assume. Yes, that works. And then we have 3 different items here that we're supposed to be able to customize. So that big notification thing there is, I think it's a settings item. I think that's what it is. And I'm just going to stop using string resources here for a bit. So this is the title of the item. It's, I guess enabled is whether it's flipped to true or not, but we can just mock these for now. And then it can also have a note, which is what this second string would be. So if I save that, yeah, that looks correct. Conference schedule updates. Okay. And then we need 2 more of these, which are going to be noteless. One of them is changes and updates. And then the other one is future events. Okay. This seems to behave fine if we just like reduce the size. Everything's still centered, everything looks reasonable. Of course, we want those toggles to be actually toggleable. And if we make the screen too small, we can actually see that we run out of space, which is not ideal. So what we should do is probably we want this inner column to have a weight modifier so that it takes up as much of the screen as it can, but it doesn't. Yeah, that looks good. So it doesn't overlap the bottom button on the screen. And then we want to make it scrollable. And I think we can make that entire column scrollable essentially. So we can do vertical scroll and then remember scroll state. And if we save that and make this smaller, then yeah, that's indeed scrollable now. From the Kodi all the way to the bottom. And I imagine that as we integrate this into our actual app, we'll want to. Oh, the Kodi is being cut off. That's awkward. So for that, do we just put the scrolling above the padding? I think that's probably it. Yeah, now, okay, that's good. Now Kodi can scroll to the edge of the screen. Good. So I imagine that whenever this button is clicked, we'll proceed to somewhere else and we want to pass the current state of the toggles to the app. But until then, we probably don't need to notify whoever's calling this function of state changes. So I think we'll just have like an onDone function or something like that. And we'll pass this a bunch of different parameters. So schedule updates and well, these are not quite easy to make and not quite easy to name. So we can have schedule updates. And then updates 25. I'm not sure what these toggles are. I feel like they should have better text. Conference schedule updates. That part is obvious. I don't know what changes and updates for KotlinConf 2025 are that are not covered by the first thing. We'll just keep the parameter name for now. And then I don't know. Future updates seems like an obvious parameter name. That one's easy. This I don't like much. I guess changes and updates is what I'm gonna call it. Yeah, I don't know. That's fine. And then all three of these need their own little composable state. So let's just introduce that. We can do it probably as locally as possible. So we can probably just put it down here. And I'll make sure that I call these the same thing as whatever I've called the parameters. So we'll have these 3 kinds of updates. And all of these are going to be remembered mutable state of true by default. And then they should be toggleable. So this is schedule updates, and on toggles should do schedule updates equals it. And this is changes and updates, and this updates exactly that. And this is future updates, and this updates exactly that. And if we save it and we hot reload, we get an error. Interesting. I think, okay, I've managed to full screen the app. That's interesting. I think I've managed to change a lambda sufficiently again that it broke. Not entirely sure, but I'll take a note of the timestamp. Ah, no, okay, it just wasn't compiling. We need a more obvious way to direct to the correct error. So basically, we just didn't have this parameter set. That's why hot reload didn't work. Okay, once more. We have our notifications here, and now we should be able to toggle them. And I guess I can at least print these values. So I can do like X, Y, Z whenever the button is clicked, and if I click let's get started, it doesn't print. Why does it not print? Is it because we don't have a logger? I feel like print line should be able to find, you know, like the standard output. Oh, I'm never calling onDone. Of course, I'm not calling that. Okay. So whenever that button is clicked, I wanted to call onDone. And oh, this needs access to these values, so we need to lift them a bit. So I'll need to put these, I'll put these at the top of the function. And we'll use these to call onDone. I really just need the names of these variables. And that hot reloads correctly. And if I click this, we can see it's all true right now. And is there a clear button here? So if I change some of these, now it's false, false, and true. And if I change some of these some more, then, you know, now it's true, false, false. So that seems to work fine. So we're passing all of these values into the callback. Yeah. Oh, so something that's obviously wrong is the spacing here. I just noticed that. So let's look into the details of this design for a second, find the box that surrounds all of these. And if we take a look at that, so we have these different settings items. And there's no obvious thing set up on the surrounding box, like there's not a gap specified there. They do have padding, which is 8 dps, adding up the top and the bottom padding. And they have a 10 pixel gap, but I don't think that gap is doing anything because these settings items only have a single other item in them. So I think it's just the 8 dps of padding that's supposed to be between them. And what we've done is we've spaced out everything within the column by 24. So to avoid that, I'll just wrap these into their own column, which will have no padding by default. So that would make them all attached like that. And then we'll create a modifier here, settings modifier, which will add 4 dps of vertical padding. Or I guess I could just do arrangement again. So we could have an arrangement spaced by 8 dps. Yep, that looks pretty much correct. I think 8 dps is correct here. And again, if we just make this smaller, that seems to be pretty much on point. Let's check the font color. That's long text again. That seems fine. Yeah, I think this is I think this looks fairly identical. I don't think we're missing anything. So I think we have these 3 screens essentially ready. Again, the big markdown thing, we'll just add that later on. Let's move on to some other screen then. I can probably build the info screen next, which was off here to the side. So that looks pretty promising. It's, again, a bunch of these settings item-ish things. I think these are called something else. It's a page menu item. But that's also, again, implemented as a component. So it should be easy to just drop like 5 of those into a screen and we're just about done. It cannot be that difficult. We'll definitely need like all of this for sure. I think that's probably not imported yet, so I'll save that as an SVG. Okay. Is the button not too big? I think it should be within spec. This is the app. So this is the KotlinConf app that we're building here. It will also be available on the web. Because we can run the same thing on Kotlin WASM. It's a multi-platform project with Compose multi-platform. So we'll also have it deployed on the web. I think the button looks correct comparing to the design. Yeah. I think that's the height. It's supposed to be what, 56 dps. All right. Info screen. So we have a new drawable that we need to add. That's an interesting challenge. Oh, and we need to run it through the importer. Maybe we can see if I have that running. I didn't have the. Do we have vector drawable here? No, I think we don't have the. I think we don't have the Android plugin loaded still. So we'll probably just skip the drawable here. And just build the rest. Okay, let's do info screen. Of course, that just needs to be a function. So info screen, and whenever we were using the notification screen, we'll just replace that with the info screen. And the info screen will have things like a big info thing at the top, which I think we can again copy from here. So basically we just use this existing component and that should give us a top title that says info. Of course, we don't have any layout yet, so let's add a column, fill max size, and if we save that, the info thing is now at the top, which is good. We should probably also look at the dark design because we're in dark theme here anyway. Oh wait, is this image different between the two designs, or is that the same gradient? It's hard to tell. But I don't want to get lost in that, so we'll just keep powering through the layout things. So that's the info thing. Then there's going to be an image here. We can add something as a placeholder. So let's do resources from the UI components module, which of course immediately gets imported in a super ugly way because we had the other resource imported. So I want to just grab like a like one of the random codies here, and then we just skip the content description for now. As this, I never know what the parameter names of the image composable are. That's something that I can just never remember. Between the parameter names on that and the actual function names to access it. So it's image vector and then vector resource. Okay, sure. Image vector resource. Excellent. Huge Cody. We're just gonna make Cody a bit smaller. Again, this is a placeholder to do swap for. Hey, it's KotlinConf. Beautiful. So these things are like page menu items, each of these entries, something like that. Page menu item, and it's going to say about the conference, and then another one is going to say about the app, and then our partners, and then code of conduct, and all of these just are going to be channeled into callbacks so that we can handle them navigation wise. And then we'll have a row of these two things here, the like X and select buttons, which we haven't built yet, so we can do that in a moment. And that's essentially the entire screen. We'll also need a divider here on the top, so that's going to be 1dp divider, and if we check the color on that, it's this pale color again. So KotlinConf theme colors stroke pale. And of course all of these items are not working because the on click on each of them is a required parameter, but if we just add that, then we pretty much have this screen going. Let's add some spacing and things like that. It looks like each of these has 4 and 4 dps of padding, which I'll again substitute with spacing on the column itself, I think. That seems to be the nicest way to do this. Yeah, we don't have that specified in the design, but it seems nicer on the code level. So it's gonna have a vertical arrangement, and we'll just space them out by 8 dps. Good. Then we'll have padding on the sides, which again is just added on each individual item, I think. But I mean, it has to be 12 dps, so we can add that at the top. So horizontal 12 dp padding. Few too many parentheses there. Okay, and I mean, I guess we can build these big boxes. Height and width. Oh, these are okay. These are not squares. These are apparently intentionally not squares. They should just be 160. Okay, let's just do 2 boxes. Well, 2 columns, I suppose. 2. Yeah. 2 columns should be fine as long as we center the contents. I think that works. But it should also be, we can extract this to a separate function. So these are gonna be, you know, social things. And it will have a drawable as a parameter, and then like a handle as a parameter. This can be private, and for the drawables, whatever is the type of this, it's an image vector. I think that's what we're gonna take as a parameter. So these social things, which I guess we're gonna start with Cody again. Sorry, just formatting a bit. So these social things are going to be columns, which have a piece of text and an image. The image is going to load the vector resource that we passed in, and we'll probably not have a content description, I think. We need some sizing info here. Interesting, this is called Twitter. That's 64 dps. So modifier 64 dps. And I realize I'm running out of space on the stream. Oh, I've already resolved that with the types. So this should just be passed in like that. Okay. And then the text will pretty much just be the handle. And then let's do a horizontal alignment. Alignment center. Horizontally, of course. And we should have 2 of these social things. Okay, we're progressing slowly. We're getting there. Sorry, checking the chat. Okay. Oh yeah, I think the question has pretty much been answered. But I can also repeat that just to make sure that everyone watching is caught up. So what we're building here is the app for this year's KotlinConf, which is going to be in May. This is the official Kotlin conference. Tickets are available, workshop tickets are available. So have a look at that. And what we're building is the new version of the KotlinConf app. So we have an app for the conference every year. It has a schedule in it. You can favorite things, you can send in feedback and all of those great fun things. And this app is actually open source. So you can go to the JetBrains/KotlinConf app repo on GitHub and find all of the code of the app right there. Specifically on the master branch, if you have a look there, you'll find the version from last year, so the 2024 version of the app. And where we are working is the KotlinConf 2025 branch, which is the updated version for this year. And that has the beautiful updated design that we're using here as well. Okay, these social things have 8 DP rounded boxes with tile background. So let's do that next. I'm gonna put these all into modifiers. So we're gonna do the background first. KotlinConf theme, colors, tile background. Save that. Okay. Then we're gonna add, I guess we're not gonna add the padding. What we're gonna do is we're gonna make sure that these fill up the available space. So we'll add the weight to them out here. We'll make sure to also be good citizens in Compose and accept the modifier parameter and use that modifier parameter correctly. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So if we save, they now take up the space. And then the other thing we had to do is add a minimum height. So we can do height in, and what we saw in the design is that these boxes were, I guess they just have padding. We can just specify the padding, maybe just 32 dps vertically. That seems fine. Yeah, let's do 32 dps of padding both ways. Oh, of course, we want that inside the background. And then we also want to clip into that rounded corner shape. So rounded corner shape, and I think it was 8 dps on the corners. Okay, yeah, we're getting there. We can check that there's an 8 dp gap between these. I mean, whether that's a spacer or whether that's an arrangement, it doesn't really matter. I'm gonna keep using arrangements because that's nice, and if we were to add like a third link here, it would be easier to modify the code. Okay, let's check the text specs. So this should be primary text and text 1, I think. I think we pretty much already have that part locked down. We also need an 8 dp gap in here. That I'm gonna do with a spacer for sure. So modifier height 8 dp. Yeah, looking pretty good. Oh, the top of the screen looks weird. So first of all, the divider is within the padding. That's not good. That's not great. And yeah, all of this. Yeah, okay. Basically, the top header I want in a separate column so that it's not affected by all the like padding that we're adding to the rest of the screen. So I'll just move that one level up. And now you can see that that's not getting padded anymore. And we are also not adding the gaps between at least these two pieces. We're only adding that between everything else. We can also see that we get this like hover if I go through the different menu items here, because these are already clickable, but these bottom two things are not. So we should add an on-click callback to those little like social squares that I've implemented. And the place where that should go would be just about here. So whenever those are clicked, we should call the onClick function. And of course we need to make sure that we handle that click somewhere. So we need to add those parameters on the call site. And if we recompile, we can now see that these are just as clickable as the other things on the screen. Wonderful. Okay. Handle is always KotlinConf. Oh, I guess the other one should be the name of the channel, right? So that's the like Slack channel's name. Handle is a weird name for this parameter. I think we just call these things image and text and then call it a day there. Yeah. Okay, then we're gonna need like what? Like 6 callbacks here. Okay. On about conf is gonna be a callback like this. On about app, on our partners, on code of conduct, on Twitter, and on Slack. Something like that. Obviously, for hot reload to continue working, we now need to fill in all of those parameters, just with placeholders. And now we're in the green. Very good. Yeah, if we had the Android plugin working, it would be great to just import some drawables. I wonder if it works if I try to do it. Oh, it works here. Okay, that's a possible quest. Okay, let me try doing a couple of asset imports then. So I'm gonna name this one just Hey KotlinConf, and I really hope that this is the same in both designs, in like light and dark mode. I think this is probably the same. We can check later. So we're gonna import that. Very good. Then we're gonna do another vector asset. And oh, I haven't downloaded those yet, so I want this as a vector icon. So grab the SVG, and I want this as a vector icon. So I'll grab that. Did that seriously become a zip file? This vector, please. That's a zip file. Wonderful. I cannot tell why. That's okay. So I'm gonna import one of them. Sorry, I'm gonna do this off screen because I don't want to throw up a file browser necessarily here. So bear with me for just a second as I go through browsing these in to the project. So this is gonna be Slack. And all of these were added in here into the Android resources, and we're just gonna take them and put them into Compose resources. And in there, we're gonna put them into drawables. Sorry. So now we should have all of them ready. I'm gonna keep calling this Twitter as the Figma design does. Okay. Now the question is, how quickly does this get rebuilt? So if I want to reference, oh, we're working with the wrong resources again, right? Right. Okay. That's a bit annoying, but I don't think there's a better way. So we're gonna do the double resource import again. So the app resources, I'm gonna import as app resources, and then the resources coming from the UI components library, I'm just gonna use as regular resources. Oh, we could also customize the names of these on the Gradle level. Maybe that would be a good idea. So instead of having to rename it, we could just rename the actual generated file. That's possible to do. And we already added some Gradle config here, so we might as well do that. So down here, where is it? Oh, I guess it was in the other module. So we already saw that we can customize Compose resources like this. So I could, for example, in the shared module, go in there and what's the name of this property? Package of R class auto never. Why can't I find this through auto completion? Is the name not customizable specifically? So we can change the package. Okay. Maybe the name of the class is not customizable. I would love to call it just apparatus by default. Okay. Compose resources, customize generated class name. That's something to ask about. Isn't there a way to wrap all of those parameters in a class in Compose? I mean, we could. I don't know if it would help us particularly. Let me go back to the code. So I mean, we could wrap all of these callbacks into some kind of single class that holds 6 callbacks. But I don't think the code would get much cleaner here, unfortunately. I don't think that's what's... I don't think that's our issue in this case. Not really. So anyway, now we have app resources, right? So now we can reference app resources and then drawables, and then we should have, well, we should have a hey. Is that what I called it? I wanted to use a J for it. Anyway, so we should have that, and then this one should be the Twitter logo, and this should be the Slack logo, right? Does that still not compile? No, I think that's green. Why is hot reload not working? This dot. Oh, is my build Gradle broken? Not this one. Not that one. Okay. Maybe something's broken and I can't see it, but I need to close the app and rerun it to make sure. Oh no, it wasn't broken. It indeed was not broken. So that was a hot reload problem. Hot reload stopped working with a timestamp. Okay. I wonder what that was. But I was messing around with Gradle configs, so it was something related to that. Also, we have indeed discovered that this image is not the same for light and dark mode. Because as you can see, the text needs to change colors. Otherwise, we're drawing black text on a black background. Okay. Let's maybe check the light theme version here. Let's take the KotlinConf theme and do like dark theme false. And then if we hot reload, bam, that should give us the other version. This also makes it obvious that we should update the colors of these drawables. So let's do that first. So going to the info screen, we have these social things. Okay, I don't know, social square. Yeah. And the icons in here should be tinted. Content description. So this needs some kind of tint modifier. Do we just have something that's tint? We don't. We have color filters. That seems fine. So color filter tint. Yes, we have that. And then this is KotlinConf theme, colors, and I think it should just be the same color as the primary text. And that looks pretty good. We can also adjust the sizing and spacing of this top image. So this should be, and that's a very specific height, 124 dps. But yeah, I think we just specify the height of it. I think that's probably a good way to go about it. And then we should also align it to the middle. So we can actually make it fill the entire width. And I think it will be centered by default. Yes. It has some kind of padding on it to make it appear where it appears. Let's try to figure out how that works. I think it might just be constrained manually to the top of the screen here, which is a bit annoying, but we can just eyeball the padding in that case, so we can just give it like 24 dps of padding or so. And I think that looks about right on the top, but not on the bottom. I feel like it should probably be, it should probably be centered vertically within the empty space there. So I think this is probably fine. Let's download the other version though. So this is the light version, it turns out, and we actually need to download the dark version separately. So we're gonna export that as an SVG, and we're gonna export it. That is a very strange preview. Okay, and then we'll use the same trick again, convince the Android plugin that we're doing something normal. Import that. I'm gonna browse for the downloaded file real quick off screen here. And we're gonna finish the import. And this one we want to move. Where are we moving it? In here into Compose Resources for a start. Yes. Please move that. Yep. And we have a drawable dark folder already. So we're just gonna drop this in there and hope that I've used the same file name for both of them. I did. Okay. I still don't like the file name though, so I'm just gonna rename it. And do we need to rename the other one? Yes. And now we're gonna go back in here and make sure that we also fix the name there. And that reloaded just fine, except the colors are off. So what's up with that? Didn't I just download the dark version? I just downloaded the dark version now. And the previous one was the light version. Did I overwrite the regular one? Or is it maybe a caching issue? Okay, I'm just gonna... What if it just didn't reload? Let's just start there. No, that still doesn't work for some reason. Interesting, okay. What about dark mode? Dark mode is correct. So the resource we have added for dark mode works just fine. It's the other one. They have the same names. I've just copy pasted them, right? Okay. Okay. We're gonna diff them. We're gonna open a diff window, take the regular resource, take the dark version. Yeah, these are different. They also have different sizing for some reason. But what I want to see is a different color. Oh, there it is. So one of them is white. One of them is one of them is filled with white. One of them is filled with black things. But then this is the dark version, which is correct because the text is white. I am confused. Okay. Does this just not get swapped? Do we always load the dark version? Do we always load the non-dark version and I just have them swapped around? So the dark version is supposed to have white text. I think this is the text. I think that's the white text right there. So that's, again, correct. But then in here, we have this, which is clearly like dark gray. And that's not doing its thing. Can we just make this red real quick? That's not gonna reload like this, right? Okay, that does nothing. This is a very scientific investigation. What if I just delete like almost all of this drawable? What if I also reload the app? I mean, we must just not be using this file, right? Like apparently nothing I do here matters. Yeah, I mean that this is still loading. How? Drawable. Should I be loading this somewhere else? Should I be loading it in a way where it reacts to dark theme changes correctly? And I'm not doing that. I don't know what I'm missing. We're loading it here. It even points to both of them, yeah. Like if it's dark, we need one. Otherwise, we need the regular. This is in shared compose resources, drawable. That's the one I've been deleting though. Does the resource system just think that I'm always in dark mode? I mean, that must be it. Okay, maybe compose resources is fetching system dark mode, right? Like it's probably detecting that my system is in dark mode. That's what my problem is. So let's undelete these files. Let's put back their regular contents, and we're just gonna go into like system preferences, and wherever like dark mode is, we're gonna go to light mode. That doesn't change a thing. Huh. What if we reload the app? Although I feel like, okay, there we go. Okay, interesting. Dark mode? Okay. Very weird. So essentially what we need to do is tell compose resources whether we're in dark mode so that it doesn't fetch it from the system, but so that we can tell it which mode we want to be in. And I have no idea how to do that. Or if it's even possible. But now I'm very intrigued. Do we just read the source code? So we have these team qualifier things, right? Private constructor, that's not promising. Oh, maybe all enums have a private constructor. I mean, it would be nice if I could just pass this in as a parameter, right? Like whenever I'm accessing an image, if this had like an extra parameter. Oh, maybe it's contained in the drawable itself, or can we just dive in here? Okay. Resource reader, blah blah blah, reads the density, gets the path based on the environment. Okay. I don't know. Give me. Is there like JVM in here? Why are there no JVM? There's common sources. Okay. Get system resource environment will be overridden for tests and so on and so on and so on. I mean, this would all be trivially okay on like a mobile device, or even here if I was using the system theme. But if I want to override it like manually to true or false, like if I want to specify at the level of my theme, right? So like at the app level, I have everything wrapped in this KotlinConf theme, and if I want to manually specify here whether I'm in dark or light mode, then compose resources doesn't know, and it's still taking the system setting. So just again. It's just looking for everything within this environment that it's fetching. And that environment is from there, from remember resource state, and then we again have a lot of jar files. JS, iOS, common main, okay. Okay, so it's from a composition local. It's local compose environment current. And if we keep diving, oh no, that's also internal. Okay. And there's the theme. I feel like we could provide this. I just want to see an example of this being provided somewhere. But apparently we're only ever reading it. Okay, probably not worth the rabbit hole. So any actual device, this would be fine. I just need to stop messing with the theme. But that's an interesting thing to think about. Whether we want to allow customize, like bridging from our theme into resource loading. But none of these things are public, right? Like local compose environment. You know, like I don't have access to those, so I don't think we could provide any of these things. We could provide a resource environment, I guess. Resource environment. For some reason you can remember one. I don't know what you're supposed to use that for. When is it okay to create? Your own instance of this? Why would that be okay? Anyhow, where is our app? Here's our app. Do we need anything else fixed here? So we have the top header. We have our "Hey, it's KotlinConf" title. We have all of these buttons. I guess we didn't connect the buttons, right? I assume we didn't. So we just need to call all of those callbacks, and that's pretty much it. So we can make sure that in each of these we go like about conf, and then we go about app. We actually don't need the extra lambdas here. Partners and code of conduct. Well, that didn't work. Code of conduct. And then the Twitter thing. And then the Slack thing. These should probably have nicer names, but it works for now. The design of these little squares on the bottom isn't great yet. I think maybe there's more padding involved here than what we can see. So there's this image, and then there's this frame, and it says there's an 8 dp gap in there. I really think it looks like more. Yeah, 16 looks much closer. I think the problem is that these images are really 48 dp size. And then they're wrapped in 64, but most of that is empty space. So I think these are like 48. But then also have themselves padded up to like 64 minus 48, which is 16, and like half of that. It's like vertical padding, like 8 dps. And then this can just be 8. Okay, so to just very briefly explain what I'm doing here, if I just put like a color, that's interesting. If I put like a color red in here, so now we can see that the icons themselves are 48 dps, the actual icon from the vector resource, but then we add this like empty space so that the whole thing is 64 dps. I guess I also don't need to do that with padding, right? I could just do that with, well, No padding is the simplest one. Yeah, no padding. I like the padding approach. Because that looks pretty close to what we have in the design. I wonder if these should be stretchable, but I mean, that's not usually gonna happen. And the small sizes, well, except very small sizes, all of this looks fine. The top, okay, the top banner is kind of interesting. So as we start scaling down, we probably should be removing some of the padding here as well. But I mean, I don't think we're gonna implement that. The other thing is, if we have a very small screen, all of this should be scrollable. And we can do that at the very top level here. So not the top toolbar, but everything below that can get a vertical scroll, and we can remember a scroll state for it. And if we just do that and save it, and we make this smaller, then all of this should now be scrollable. We should add some padding to the bottom, most likely. There's no padding on the top of the column, but yeah, at the bottom it would be nice to have some padding. So let's do padding bottom, you know, like 16 dps. And now if we scroll down, we actually have somewhere to scroll down to. Maybe we can make this 12 as well, so that it's, you know, symmetrical. So it's the same padding on the bottom as what we have around the screen. That looks nice. And now these click listeners should also be connected. Okay. How long are we in? We're like 2 hours in. Thanks for still sticking with me. I think I've heard that there's gonna be another Twitch stream today because Andre, who was here in chat a moment ago, is gonna do his SVG renderer thing. I don't know if he's still here. But that's supposed to start in like 20 minutes, so I think I'll wrap it up as that starts, and everyone can go over to that stream instead. But in the meantime, it would be good to still build something. And I mean, we can. So the settings screen has some interesting logic. I think we can start with that next time. We can build this super boring about screen, right? Like, I mean, this is just the same screen again with some different stuff in it. So you should be able to build that one. Now let's see how that goes. I think we can again just steal the current screen. Like, well, we can pretty much just duplicate this file, and we can do an about screen. And this will have a lot of callbacks as well, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 callbacks and 2 links, and the back button. So it's gonna have an on back, an on GitHub repo, an on rate app, and then on settings, and on privacy policy, and on terms of use, something like that. We can also make sure that we start using this screen, and we actually hot reload to it. And now a lot of things are broken here at the moment because I've just removed these callbacks. That's fine. We're just gonna grab each of these and replace it with an empty one for now. And we're not gonna have any of this like social square business, which complicated the previous screen. So if we save this, now we have reloaded successfully. Okay. We are not filling the entire screen. So I think we're gonna do a fill max size here, and actually we are gonna go back to the info screen and make sure that that's also always true on that one. Excellent. This screen also doesn't have an image at the top, so we'll remove the image. We'll add the about the app title. And then we need some kind of back navigation, which we've also done just on the privacy screen here a moment ago. So like arrow left, there we go. So we just need to add a bit of start content, apparently, is the way to do it. So on the about screen, we go to the title bar and we add some start content. And that just needs to call the onBack function. Yep, that's a back button, all right. It will need some kind of content description. We'll put that into a string resource eventually. Divider stays, and then we have a large scrollable column that fills the size and has 12 dps of padding. That looks all correct. Except we need some text at the top. This text has some interesting things in it. It has clickable links. For now, let's paste it as just text. So we're gonna make it a styled text. I'll put the string like right in here. Okay. And we probably want some padding here at the top. So maybe we just do 12 dps of vertical padding. Yeah. Actually, there's a lot of padding around this text. Seems kind of random. I'm not sure why that exact padding is on there. Gap 24, fixed width. Yeah, this is also just manually aligned, which is not great. Yeah, the top is fixed and the rest of it scrolls, but why are these not actual padding values? Okay. So maybe we just leave a bottom padding here and then we add some padding to the text itself, and we're just gonna eyeball that again. So the padding here on the top, let's say 16 dps. And then on the bottom, so below the text, maybe like 32. That looks fine-ish. The text color here is... What's the text color here? Doesn't say. Am I missing something? It's just text 1. So sometimes what I do here is I try to copy the thing as like Android, and then that spits out, I think, like old school XML. And then we have a color there. But I don't know why this color isn't visible elsewhere. It's like B3. We don't even have that in our design. It's almost black 70, but it isn't quite. Yeah, I think this is supposed to be the long text color. It's just off by just a little bit for some reason. On the other screen, the same thing that looked like this was the long text. So we're just gonna do that. Long text like this. Save that, and now it turned kind of grayish. I'm not in love with the spacing of this, honestly. Seems kind of random. All the vertical spacing. I'm just gonna consolidate this, so we're just gonna do 24 dps of padding, and then there's eventually gonna be a design review, and if this isn't fine, then we'll patch it up. But this seems fine for now. And then of course we have these 5 buttons, 2 of them pointing up. Excellent. Okay. So GitHub repository, and then rate the app, and then just settings, and KotlinConf app privacy policy, And then the same thing. And then the same thing. Except it's terms of use, right? Another interesting part is whether we can customize that arrow within these items so that it points up. Because I think page menu item just assumed that the icon would always point to the right. And that's apparently not the case. So we're gonna extract this into a parameter. We're gonna still default it to the right arrow, because that seems to be a good idea. But when we're on the About screen, the first two of these want to customize it. So drawable resource is gonna be res drawable arrow upright. Is that it? Maybe we can just save it and see if it hot reloads correctly. Yes, that seems to be it. Okay. Let's do some formatting here. Okay, we have two arrows that point not just to the right, but also up. Wonderful, excellent. Okay. I wonder how hard it is to do the links in here. I did not try doing that in Compose before. I think we need like annotated spans or something like that. Like this needs to be a more exciting string essentially. Let's take this and extract it into a separate string so it's easier to work with. And I think we might have caching issues here. Let me try changing this. Oh, it's not in a resource, so it's fine. Okay, obviously we can change the string. Okay, so for example, GitHub repository in there should be a link. And I think the way that we do this is we do like a build annotated string. And take all of this. And is there an append function? Yes, there is. So if we just append all of this into an annotated string builder, oh, this doesn't compile. Oh, right, okay. Then we get the same thing, except we have the new line problem. So we can maybe append this line by line. Again, when it comes to actually like localizing this correctly, that's going to be interesting. Because I don't know how you put links into like text resources. At least I don't know what's the easy way to do it. I've done this before on Android, and I assume you can do something similar, but it would be good to make this simpler. We can do an append line here to separate the lines, I think. Okay, and then, for example, if we wanted to make GitHub repository a link here, we could put that dot in a separate thing, and then we could. I mean, is this the right way to do it? So there's a way to add styling here, like with a span or something. Where have I used this before? I've used this somewhere. Was it in this project? Oh yeah, for the talk cards. Okay. So it's just an add style thing with the indexes. That's also pretty difficult. But okay, that's an example. So we can look at that real quick. So for example, in this whole thing, we can go from like 50 to 60, and add a style there, which will give a red background to something, right? This doesn't really need us to break up the text anymore, though. I thought we needed to add the text with a specific style, but we can just keep appending and then, you know, put things in there like this. We can do a very we can do a very rough search here for where the GitHub repository text is. Very scientific. Something like this. Okay, this needs to be one more, and this needs to be like a few less. Maybe one more. Well, one less. And I guess we're hitting the new lines now. There we go. So that's a perfect selection for the words GitHub repository. Oh, just for repository. That's my bad. So I probably need to go one more word. Okay. So this is like a red background, but what we need is to make it clickable and underline it and change the color. So the color should be, I think, just primary text. And this is going to be impossible to check out in the design, I think. Oh, that's why we didn't see a color, because it's a mixed color and everything just breaks down apparently in Figma. And when you do that in a single text, it just doesn't tell you anymore. But I think that's just primary text, probably. And then it would be nice to underline it as well. I have no idea what that parameter could be called. Font style? Is that a font style that something's underlined? I don't know. No, that's like italic and things like that. Okay. What else is there? Letter spacing, baseline shift. There's a draw style. What's draw style? Unclear. I don't know why we don't have sources for these. That's interesting. Locale, baseline shift, background, platform style. There's a lot of things here. Compose underline text. Let's just Google this. Text decoration. Okay. Do we have text decoration? Yes, we do. I feel like I could have known that. So underline. If we save that and it hot reloads. Yep, that works. So now GitHub repository is underlined and everything. And now the really interesting part is, how do we make this clickable? We can add styles, sure. There's an add link function. We don't need to style manually at all. We can just add the link. And it just points to the URL. Okay. I mean, we might still want to do our own styling, to be fair. Like we might still want to make sure that we have our own styling. But yeah, we could have just added link. So it was link annotation URL, and that's just like, you know, KotlinConf.com. I mean, this should be GitHub, right? Oops, sorry. So let me just put the actual GitHub link in there. GitHub, and then start and end are just these parameters. And then we remove the style and we save it and it reloads. Okay. Yeah, that's a working link. We still do need the styling, interestingly. So to make that a link and a style link as well, we need to add both of these things. And again, these are like horribly computed manual indexes at the moment, which I don't love. I guess we can search for this string manually. And then what's the other link? It's the share your feedback link. I don't know how you would do this in a localized way. Like, I think we would need to place some kind of markers into the string resources and then find them from code and then add the annotations on top of that. And it's possible to do that with just Android, but I have not tried that in Compose multiplatform yet, and I don't know how resources can have those things. Actually, if we grab a string resource, so we can have regular string resources and plural string resources. I know that with Android, so I know that with Android string resources, this is possible. So like Android string resource, you can have like annotations placed in them. Yeah, to mark a piece of it. So you can add an annotation like this. And then what you do is you read, okay, yeah. So you read the resource and then you cast that into a span string and then read the spans from it. Compose resources annotations. It's unclear if that's possible with Compose. I mean, this is reading the same resources. Spannable string, spannable. Oh, you can check if a text is spanned. Huh. Okay. Can I? So is the spanned type like a compose type? Is annotated string a type that exists? Yes. This must be possible. We can play with this next time. Okay, I think we'll wrap it up here for today. So we essentially built, 3 screens. We need to still sort out the code and put it into the correct place and give some nicer parameter names, but we've built the simplest screens of the app, and that's something. So we have the privacy policy screen, we have the detailed version of that, which is just like an in-screen transition. We have this notification screen where you can set up a couple of your toggles, and then we built the info screen, which has just a bunch of links on it. And we built this mobile app screen, which also just has a bunch of links on it, plus these exciting links within text. So I think we'll continue next time from trying to figure out these links. I'll probably look up the APIs for that so that we don't have to learn all of that live on stream and you don't have to just watch me read documentation and try to like stumble through that. And we'll also probably build a setting screen. It's again just a couple of toggles, and it has interesting things because it needs to be able to change the color theme. Oh, then we do need to implement. We do need to figure out how to channel a Boolean value into the Compose resource system, like we encountered previously. That should be interesting. Okay, all right. So that's it. We have more and more of this little KotlinConf app ready. These are really redundant, aren't they? These are just the same things as the links. There's some design discussions to be had here. Redundant links. Okay, so we'll also discuss that. Okay, thanks everyone for tuning in. Hope all of this worked fine. Hope the stream quality was good. Hope you learned something or saw something interesting as we coded our way through the KotlinConf app with Compose Hot Reload. One more reminder, KotlinConf tickets and workshop tickets are on sale, so consider grabbing either or both of those. And join us in Copenhagen in May. It's going to be a fantastic time. And with that, I'm going to drop off. We'll probably do more of these streams, not sure when. Might have some surprise guests at some point. Who knows? Well, we'll see how all of that works out. Oh, right, the thing. So if everything went right, Andre is streaming his like SVG renderer stream. So I'm gonna try to send everyone from here over there. And supposedly the way you do that is you just do a raid chat message. And if you all click ready on that thing that appeared in chat, you should hop over there. Make sure you say that I sent you. And yeah, see you next time. Bye-bye.